Okay, so now we're streaming on YouTube. So with that HTML snippet or file that you have open, I just want you to test something for me. If you type an exclamation mark, does it offer you this Emmet abbreviation thing, or is that something I have installed?
It has it.
Yeah, so if you type exclamation mark and then tab, what happens? You get a nice bit of HTML boilerplate, which is pretty awesome, right? So that's a good little shortcut if you ever just want to create a new HTML document very, very quickly.
Exclamation tab.
Exclamation tab, yes. And if you do 3 exclamations, what does that do? Oh, okay, it just gives you the doc type HTML. So it's not working for you, it's not working for Josue, but some people it is working for, right? And you've definitely saved your file as a HTML file, have you?
Yeah, it has to be an HTML.
Has to be a HTML file. So I thought Emmet was built into VS Code. Is it working now? Okay, so it does work, yeah. Cool, so that's a good feature I think we can all use.
Yeah, it works.
Awesome, thanks Damiano. Yeah, so there are other abbreviations other than that in Emmet, so if you want to go,
3 exclamation marks?
it just gives the doc type, that's all it does. So the single exclamation mark's a lot better. But if you want to know more about Emmet, then there's an interactive guide on Scotch, or even Emmet in VS Code. There is a guide there. So again, I can share these links afterwards with you. Yeah, but it's a cool little trailer, and you can just see how in the website it enables you to build HTML code very, very quickly. So if we look at this video, so see they've done an unordered list, then a list item, and then times it by 3, then a span inside of that, and then something that says hello, and they get all of that code straight away. So yeah, it can save you a lot of time when working with HTML. For now, when you're learning, of course, it's good to write it in the verbose way and to learn what all of these tags do. But when you've worked with HTML for a long time, you're going to really appreciate something like this to just skeleton out your HTML documents. Yeah?
Could you send the link for this?
Absolutely, but I'll do it after the workshop, yeah? Just because I don't want to open Slack while we're broadcasting on YouTube and those sorts of things. All right. Yeah, so let me come back out. Just something I wanted to mention at the beginning. Cool. So essentially what Emmet has done for us is it has included all of the tags that we are going to need in any HTML document, right, by default. We need a doc type declaration. We need this parent HTML tag here. So for those, I know we had some people that hadn't even seen a tag right before this week. So it's just that less than symbol, the name of the tag, and then any attributes. Ricardo was talking about attributes earlier in the CSS specificity workshop, and saying they have a specificity of what value? 10. Nice. Yeah, each attribute would have a specificity of 10, and then just that greater than symbol to close the tag. So they often come in pairs, tags, right? We can have an opening tag which has no / in it, and we can have the closing tag that begins with a / and then has the name of the tag afterwards. Certain tags we can also make self-closing, so if you like making open and a closing tag combined, how would we do that? Let's say we want to have a self-closing image tag, for example. How would I write that? IMG is how we include images in a HTML page. This is what we did on the very first Codeflix task, yeah? Or you use that skeleton there. Sure, yeah, we'd give it some sort of source, yeah, which I'm not going to do at this stage. But then how would I close that tag, or how would I make that a self-closing tag? Slash. So does the slash go at the start, the same way it goes down there, or where does it go?
At the end.
Sure, yeah, exactly. So it goes at the end of the tag if we make it a self-closing tag. So that's like having an opening tag. This is an opening tag here with no / in, and a closing tag combined, yeah? So when you've got opening and closing, the forward slash goes at the start of the closing tag. When it's a combined one, a self-closing tag, the forward slash goes at the end, yeah? Something like that. Cool. What usually goes in the head section of a HTML file? There are a few different answers there. So you said links. Yep. So if you wanted to include a link to some external file, perhaps, yeah, you do something like that. What attributes does a link usually take? Does it have a src or no? It has a href, right? In this case, but essentially they're interchangeable, right? So in other words, where is the link? Or what is the link? Yeah, href is what is the link address, whereas source could be local to your computer. Yeah, so if you're doing an image source, you might have a relative link to a file on your computer, whereas the href is going to be some sort of external link address that you can put in there. Cool, and as you can see, we've got lots of meta tags in there as well. So meta, just information essentially. So yeah, we're setting the initial scale of the viewport and things like this, but most of the time we don't need to worry about these things. We can just use some sort of template engine to skeleton it out, or React has handled this for us. In React, where is there a HTML file that we're using anywhere? In our Create React App projects? How are we getting our React app displayed on a web page?
Index.html.
There's definitely an index.html in our...
In public folder.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen this already, I think it's worth mentioning. Hopefully this is going to take me to a decent CodeFlix project. Cool. That'll do. So at the moment you might not have all of these files, but you will have something similar. And most of the time you've been working here in this source folder, yeah? And you've been working on your front end files, and by now maybe you've created a gallery component, or if not, you've certainly just been working in app.js. Yeah, so you've been writing your app here in the app.js file, and yeah, you'll have a bit more content than that, but you'll have some images and some names of your movies and stuff like that in your app.js file. And you might have noticed that down the bottom you were exporting your app.js. So where were you exporting that to? Any ideas?
We're exporting it to the index.
We're exporting it, correct, to the index.js, which is usually alongside your app.js file, or even just one level up. And you can see there on line 4, I've imported the whole of my app into the index.js file. And what does that file do? Well, essentially that file is responsible for finding a HTML page in my project and rendering the whole of my React app into that index.html page. How's it doing that? Pretty much those lines there, yeah? We're rendering our React into our HTML document, and specifically inside of an element. Someone's beeping on, or is that this thing being low battery? If you guys aren't muted, just please mute yourself, because there's a bit of a feedback noise coming over the speakers. So it's rendering the whole of your app inside of something called the root ID. So we talked about other CSS selectors this morning. We talked about classes. What selector do you think that is using? Hey?
How did you get this light page?
Okay, yeah, I can tell you how to get back to this page. I might have to turn this off. What's going on with that? Cool. How did I get to that page? So this is the index.js file, which should be present in your Create React App project somewhere. You can probably find it quite near your app.js inside of source, or just one level up from source. Yeah, and when you're in that, you should find probably on line 8 or just a little bit less than that. There is something that says react dom.render, and then you're rendering the app inside of document.getElement by ID. You won't have the router at this stage. Can you see it, Joshua? So what do we mean by an element in HTML? What's an element in HTML?
It's something like
Yeah, it's essentially a part of HTML, right? All of these things could be classed as elements. Yeah, a body element, and inside of that, we could have a div. Inside of the div, there might be a paragraph. Yeah, so the paragraph would be a paragraph element. And then if you wrote some text inside of there, that's typically called a text node. Yeah, so we have nodes and elements essentially make up our HTML page. But each one of these tags or elements can have some sort of selector attached to it, or some sort of attribute attached to it that enables us to grab that item out of the page and manipulate it in some way. Change the background color with JavaScript, or even remove that element from the page. You've probably seen the to-do lists. You like really common app for beginners, create a to-do list. They're going to grab some element in the page and append another element to that div. Yeah, it might add another paragraph that says do the washing up, or add another paragraph, go and get some food. All those things. Yeah, your to-do apps are having to grab some element in the page or create a brand new element, and they could do it through using methods such as the one back in CodeFlix, get element by ID. So what selector are we using that is attached to an element there? Is it a class? Is it an attribute? What is it? ID, yeah. So again, what specificity does an ID have? 100, yeah, fantastic. So it's more specific than a task. And I would just add that into my HTML element by putting ID, yeah, the attribute ID equals, and then whatever the ID name I want to give it. Okay. In your React project, it is looking for an ID with the value of root somewhere in a HTML page. When it finds that, it's going to render your whole app inside of this root ID, or inside of this element that has an ID of root. And I can show you that as well back in the project. So where's that going to be? And I think someone said it earlier, we said that it's going to be in the public folder. So as well as this source folder, you've probably got a public folder. Back in the day, when you were creating static websites, this used to be how you uploaded the files onto your server. You uploaded them into the public folder on the server that you had access to, and that was where you put all your assets and your front-end assets and your HTML pages. And all we've got in here at the moment is one index.html page. If we look inside of there, I'll come to that later, but if you scroll down a little bit, you should see a div with the ID of root. Yeah, inside of the body, exactly. Yeah. So again, that's just a HTML page. It's got a head section. It's got lots of meta tags. It's got some links in there, right? If you were curious how to write a full link, then there's a link in there. Tells you what type it is, gives a reference to it, so we know where to get that file. And then inside of this div with an ID of root, our whole app gets rendered. And that's all our HTML page looks like. Yeah, so our whole project just gets put into that one page. So this is what React was originally designed for. It was designed for making what type of application? Web application, sure, the view of a web application, but
Single web page.
a single web page, yeah, that's all it is. This is one HTML page. Yeah, and our whole app is getting rendered inside of this one index.html page. It's a single page application, an SPA. Yeah, you might have heard that term before, and you can look that up on the web. And React is one of the most popular tools to build single page applications, and they're very popular at the moment. It's just a way of design applications, but very popular at the moment. Trendy, if you like, but yeah, the alternatives used to be creating sort of dynamic websites, and you'd host various files on the server, and you'd have lots of different files. But now we're just using builders and bundlers to create a single page application. So yeah, worth to be aware of that at least. What else to mention? Any questions before I move on? No? Cool. Okay. What does this tag here do? This title tag?
Isn't that what, so when you have it open on Chrome like this, the tab, it writes up there. It's a terrible explanation. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Hopefully some other people know what you mean as well.
It's the tab label.
Yeah, it's the label for the tab. Yeah, the title that gets used on the tab. So is there a short one up here somewhere? Not really, but yeah, essentially the one that I've just created has a title of index.html, but the VS Code title would be Emmet in Visual Studio Code, right? They've set that somewhere in that HTML file to render that title. Well, they might have done it dynamically, but yeah, that's how you would change the title of your CodeFlix project. So at the moment, they probably all say React App, React App, React App, right? It's a common thing when people make their portfolios using React and they don't change the title, and it looks very unprofessional, right? Your portfolio page just says React App. If you want to leave React App in there to show that you've used React, sure, but at least call it your name, portfolio React App or something, yeah? So personalize that. So again, how do you change it? Well, you just go back to your, sorry, wrong one. You go back to the